Sundrop, of all the major soda brands in a 12-ounce can, has the most caffeine of all of them, including Mountain Dew, Coke, and Pepsi.
That is insane. Okay, so this is
I would ask any pregnant woman to stop drinking caffeine. What happens in 2 to 4 hours after the baby's born? The adenosine receptors open up, and the baby has a screaming headache.
Welcome to another Million Miles, your personal lifestyle concierge with credibility. I'm Danielle Keasling, and in each episode, I connect you with unparalleled access to authentic, credible voices from across the entire world of beauty, wellness, fashion, travel, and mindset.
So today on another Million Miles, we're diving into a story that just might make you look twice at that cup of coffee in your hand while listening. My guest, Steve Frazier, is a founder of Release the Coffee Cups and the author of Release the Coffee Cups, Winning the Battle with Caffeine. After 4 decades as an entrepreneur, business coach, and behavioral change strategist, not to mention countless cups of coffee, Steve made a shocking discovery that caffeine wasn't fueling him. It was actually draining him. So what he thought was giving him energy was actually stealing it. I know that I travel the world and I am another million miles of beauty, health, travel, and wellness. So I'm super excited to have this conversation with Steve and find out what can I do to maybe get some energy from a different source. So thank you for coming on, Steve.
Thank you. My pleasure.
So tell me a little bit about your discovery. Tell me a little bit about who Steve is and what your story is. Where did this start from?
It started 13 years ago. My wife got sick, chronically ill, 2 years undiagnosed Lyme disease. And so when our daughter was going to school to be a natural health person, and after 2 years with doctors, she came into the house one day and said, "Let me check you." And 15 minutes later, looked at my wife Brenda and said, "You have Lyme disease from the waist down." And that was then confirmed by another practitioner 4 days later. This is through muscle testing.
Wow.
Which medical doctors don't believe in this. And she was soon to die. She was down from 115 down to about 89 pounds, and there wasn't much left. And so what that did is it gave us the incentive to pursue natural health. As a result of the Lyme disease, she became celiac and also grain intolerant. Now, you put those together and you realize that that's no wheat, no corn, no rice. It's nothing. And so then we discovered other things like nitrates, nitrites, also processed food. She can't eat anything processed. And so what happens is that you start to eat really well because of you have to.
You have to, right?
Or you die, or you get really sick. I mean, we found out about the nitrates. I made smoked pork chops, which we really liked. And she was in bed for 2 days. And the second day she said, "Go and look at that label." I still had the wrapper in the garbage.
Okay.
And sure enough, it nitrates added. And that was it. So, we eat bacon and ham now that's uncured. Okay. So you can always find ways, generally. Okay, you can find ways. So that path led us to a lot of things. She created a pasta made from garbanzo beans and arrowroot starch and xanthan gum and organic eggs. It's called Dr. Noodles by Brenda. It tastes just like regular pasta. We were big pasta eaters, and she couldn't eat regular pasta anymore.
Wow.
So that, we did that. And then several years ago, I got into self-sabotage. And I took a course with a guy, and I stayed with him for a year in that course. I actually took 2 classes because I really wanted to figure out what this was all about. And in self-sabotage, there's 4 pillars. There's emotional, financial, spiritual, and physical. And I looked at the physical pillar. Self-sabotage is undermining your own values and morals. We all do it. We all have a toolbox.
Yep.
Full of ways to self-sabotage ourselves. And in the physical one, there's nicotine, there's alcohol, there's caffeine, there's drugs, prescription drugs, overeating. These are all ways to detrimentally hurt your health.
Okay.
And I chose caffeine, and I've been a caffeine user in the past. I was in the restaurant business for 23 years. I lived on caffeine.
Okay.
When we opened up a restaurant, I mainlined it, 1,000 to 1,500 milligrams a day probably.
Okay.
And so I picked caffeine because 85% approximately of adults in America drink caffeine daily. That's
Wow.
200 to 300 million people. And I thought, I wonder how many of them actually know what caffeine is doing to them.
Yeah, no.
Because I'm not anti-caffeine. I'm pro-health and pro-knowledge.
Okay.
Because I learned a long time ago, because I'm older and wise, is that you can't make anybody do anything. Because we all have free will and free won't. So instead of trying to make someone do something, I can influence them or give them information that they weren't aware of. And when I started to write the book, my eyes just opened up, right? Because I have 300 references in my book. And so this isn't just my opinion.
Okay.
Like 14 chapters are completely cited. Okay. My opinion is not in those 14 chapters.
Okay.
I have the first chapter is called Anecdotal Stories. And originally I wrote it as a kind of an entertainment thing at the end of the book.
Okay.
And then as I started to put it together, I realized that it was really, really important that people read those stories. And the reason I felt that is because as you read the stories, you will find yourself somewhere in there.
Okay.
If you're a caffeine drinker or an ex-caffeine drinker. Because the stories are real. I mean, and some of them are extremely painful. But all the stories are about people quitting caffeine successfully. And out of the 15 or 20 that I have in there, only one woman said that she didn't sleep better. But without all the rest of them, the biggest benefit of quitting caffeine was their sleep.
Okay.
And I'll get to that in a minute, but sleep is
It's number one on the priority list.
it is, because that's where you heal.
Yeah.
You heal in your sleep. And if you don't sleep well, and unfortunately, this is one of the things about caffeine that nobody understands, is that you go to sleep at night when you drink caffeine. So I'm not telling you don't. However, caffeine upsets your circadian rhythm. And so when you go into your sleep cycle, there's the stage 3 sleep cycle is where you heal.
Correct.
Caffeine actually delays that and makes it shorter.
Okay.
And then stage 4 is your REM sleep. And that's where you dream and your subconscious is working in the background. You think about different things while you're dreaming. Well, it also shortens that and delays the onset. And so when you wake up in the morning, you're tired because you never got that restful sleep. And when I say these things, this is the general rule. There's exceptions to every rule. I'm sure there's people that drink 10 cups of coffee a day and sleep great at night and feel great in the morning. But other than the fact that they have to go through withdrawal, okay, and that's something they don't control. Because your body is controlling. Your body controls a lot of this, and I'll explain this right now. When you wake up in the morning, if you don't drink caffeine, like what I do, I go to my living room window, which is east facing, and I look at the sun. Mm-hmm. Now, this is a natural way to spark my cortisol.
Yep.
Because cortisol is energy.
Yep.
It gets you going for the day, and then as your day goes on, your cortisol goes down.
Yeah.
And your melatonin and your adenosine goes up.
Yeah.
With over 26 years of real life experiences as a thriving entrepreneur, I'm here to bring you sophistication, insight, and expertise into every aspect of your life. This is Another Million Miles, where luxury meets authenticity and every step brings you closer to the life that you deserve.
Now, a lot of people have heard of a melatonin, but not a lot of people have heard about adenosine. Yes. And that's something that it's in your brain, and you have adenosine receptors. Okay. And they're up here. And caffeine molecules are extremely similar to adenosine molecules.
Okay.
So what happens when you drink caffeine in any form, it passes through the blood-brain barrier. It then plugs the adenosine receptor. And so the adenosine can't go into the receptor, and so you don't get tired in your mind. Your body can get tired, but your head is saying, I can run a marathon. Your body can't, but your mind is. And then as the caffeine wears off, as you methylate the caffeine through your body and process it, what happens is that the adenosine receptors open up, and then you either put caffeine in it to keep you basically a little bit high, whatever term you want to use, or the adenosine goes in, and now what happens is you get brain fog, you get fatigue, and so that's why a lot of people will have afternoon crashes. So now let's say you're an average coffee drinker. What's the first thing that many of people do? Is they have a coffee, first thing when they get out of bed. Because you realize that they are withdrawing from caffeine. Mm-hmm. They might have a little tinge of a headache, because when you quit cold turkey, the headaches are from the adenosine receptors opening up and the blood flowing to your head.
Okay.
That's where the headache comes from.
Okay.
And you can't stop. The only thing that stops that is caffeine.
Okay.
There's no medication, because it's a molecule and it's filling that.
Okay,
so
that makes sense.
When you wake up in the morning, the first thing you do is you have caffeine. Naturally, your body is elevating your cortisol. Now you gave it another boost of cortisol.
Okay.
Plus, caffeine releases adrenaline into your body, which gives you a lot of energy and a lot of fight or flight. It also releases dopamine. Dopamine is a natural high. Dopamine is a very low level, and when I say that, I mean we're talking low level heroin, morphine, cocaine, whatever. The dopamine is a natural, makes you feel good. Correct. So every time you have a cup of coffee, you have a dopamine release, you have adrenaline release, you have a cortisol release.
Okay.
And so you have this cycle. In the 14 chapters in the middle of the book, I talk about this in every chapter because it's relevant, because it's a rinse and repeat. Everybody's different. So you're going to react differently than I am to caffeine. Yeah. So again, these aren't blanket statements, they're generalities, but generally speaking, if you have 1 or 2 cups of coffee in the morning, by 2 or 3 o'clock in the afternoon, you're gonna go down. You're gonna have a crash. Yeah. And you either deal with it and suck it up and move on, or you have more caffeine. And so your circadian rhythm gets all messed up, and it actually, in chronic users, it can actually flip the circadian rhythm, where you're wide awake at night and you're absolutely exhausted in the morning, which is just the opposite of what your body is telling you to do. Yeah. Yeah. Now, caffeine affects each one of us differently, and men and women differently. Okay? Yeah. One thing with women is there's a lot more hormonal stuff going on. As an example, in the menstrual cycle, the last 2 weeks of the menstrual cycle, women, it will take 70% longer to get rid of the caffeine in their body. So the half-life of caffeine is about 5 to 8 hours. So you could actually make that up to 10 to 14 hours now. So if you had a 200 milligram cup of coffee at noon, at that time of your menstrual cycle, you actually could have half of that left at midnight.
Wow, that's insane. So the same person, just within their menstrual cycle, will drastically, because it's a metabolic situation, right?
And it has to do with your hormones, right? And it's the same with a birth control pill. Birth control pill does the same thing. It doubles the half-life of caffeine. Those are just things. Caffeine will make menstrual cramps more severe. A number of things there. It can makes that whole time of your month a lot harder. Ironically, if you look at some of the over-the-counter pain medications for PMS or whatever you want to call it, a lot of them have a lot of caffeine in them. Okay. Sometimes 20, 40, 60 milligrams in one tablet. Okay. Well, if you have 2 of those, it's like a big cup of coffee. And what do? Your pain, it's not dulling the pain, it's actually probably aggravating it. And
so interesting.
And then if you look at a pregnant woman, and this is kind of one of the reasons why I'm doing what I'm doing, is that I would ask any pregnant woman to stop drinking caffeine while she's pregnant. Because what happens is the caffeine goes right to the fetus, and the fetus does not have the ability to get rid of the caffeine like adults. And so the baby keeps the caffeine. So now picture this. The baby's born, it's been on caffeine for 9 months, and it's not being breastfed immediately. What happens in 2 to 4 hours after the baby's born? The adenosine receptors open up and the baby has a screaming headache.
Wow.
And they're screaming. Okay.
Yeah.
Now, nobody talks about this. Read about this, about crack babies, women that are hooked on drugs and then their babies are hooked.
Yeah.
Caffeine is a drug. It's a psychoactive drug.
Yeah.
And it does the same thing. So the baby has to go through withdrawal. Now, it also affects men in different ways. Generally, it's bad for blood pressure for both sexes, but for men in particular, it will help raise your blood pressure. Chronic use will do that.
Okay.
It will. Cortisol and testosterone have a love-hate relationship. If you have too much cortisol, your testosterone doesn't work well.
I mean, I know that even as a woman because I take testosterone. And that was one of the first questions that my hormone doctor asked me when I finally got in touch with him was, how well are you sleeping? And I was like, I mean, I sleep okay, but like it's a struggle. And it was the cortisol. When I finally got tested, my levels of cortisol were so incredibly high.
Really?
Yeah, and he even said, he's like, your testosterone is like ground zero. He's like, you have zero, like, he's like, on a scale from 1 to 100, you're like literally sitting less than 10. And it was interesting that you say that because the question that led us there was, how well do you sleep?
Mm-hmm.
And, as a woman especially, you don't think about testosterone being the problem.
Right, exactly.
So when I got into my phys, that was like dialing all that in depth was very interesting to me. But I do know the relationship between cortisol and testosterone is significant. Yes. And I've dealt with it. Yeah. So.
Well, thank you. That I learned something today. Okay.
Yeah.
I didn't realize that it had that kind of effect on women.
Yeah.
Because, men, they go to the gym, they take these pre-workout drinks and they get this burst of energy. And then when they get done, their body says, oh, we're not going to do testosterone anymore today. And so it affects their libido. It affects their sperm, fractured sperm, mobility.
Yeah.
So if you have a young couple, or any age couple, and they're both drinking caffeine and they're trying to conceive, the man is hurting his sperm. And the woman, it decreases the blood flow to the uterus, which makes it harder to conceive.
Okay.
So there's all kinds of things going on here.
Yeah.
I mean, there's a lot going on here. And my influence here is, especially if you're pregnant, just stop caffeine while you're pregnant.
Yeah.
When you have your baby, go ahead and do it. Okay. Even if you're breastfeeding, there's not a lot of caffeine going through the breast milk. There's some, probably not enough to get the baby where it's going to have the headaches and things like that if you don't breastfeed for a while. But again, knowledge is power.
Yes.
And how many people don't know this stuff? I haven't found a documented peer-reviewed study that says there's any health benefit to caffeine.
Welcome to another Million Miles, your personal lifestyle concierge with credibility. Here we go beyond surface level advice. We dive deep into transformational insights from experts who set the standard in their fields.
I mean, you're right. I hear there's one gentleman that I follow that is a biohacker that actually has a caffeine company. So that might be the only thing I've heard. I think it's the positive of the negative, maybe, but it's kind of like, how are you going to make alcohol a positive?
You really have to spin it.
You really have to spin it. I mean, and let's be honest with you. The wine industry did it really well about 10 years ago when they were like, red wine is a heart, like a healthy heart. Like, you should be drinking red wine for your heart. And it was like, the fuck are you talking about?
That's very well said. Okay, you took the words right out of my mouth.
I mean, it's like such an interesting concept, right? And one thing I learned this week, I was actually in Sonoma County doing a experience with Mercedes, and then I stayed there and we did a couple wine tasting tours, and I love my wine. Wine industry is 40% down than it was in comparison when they're like overarching. I mean, you can't put COVID into that equation. So they're they're comparing pre-COVID numbers. And I was like, whoa, that is because of the new millennials and these alcohol-free idea. And I think that caffeine is kind of right behind it. I think people are starting to realize and understand and be, to your point, be more educated because of social media. And I love the fact that, I don't know what your age is, but I love the fact that you said influence, because I think that people say influence or influence with a negative condensation. Like they're like, oh, I don't want to do, like, I'm not an influencer. But like in reality, you're influencing people by educating and out of your own story. And I really do love that and appreciate that so much.
Thank
I think
you.
that's
I'm 68. I'm on no meds.
that's amazing.
I lost 53 pounds in the last 11 years. So
Wow.
I want to be doing this aggressively yet in 15 years.
Good
And if
for
I
you.
want to do that, I have to take care of myself,
Good for you.
right? I want to talk something about caffeine, like in soda. Okay, when they take the caffeine out of beans, now caffeine naturally occurs in coffee beans because it keeps the bugs off the plants. It's bitter. It's basically a poison to bugs, so they won't eat it. The caffeine, natural caffeine is bitter. So when I have somebody look at me and say, I love the taste of coffee with nothing in it, that is not the caffeine talking. That is the addiction talking, because they're talking from their dopamine, from their cortisol, and their adrenaline high. Okay, because, and I'm sure maybe there's the rare person that just loves the taste of bitter coffee. Okay, but what it is, it's hard to justify putting caffeine into something other than the fact to addict someone, because there's no health benefits. There's no reason. It doesn't taste good. So why is it in all the soda brands? Because once you have, it's addicting. It's a $1 trillion business. $1 trillion a year. That's mind blowing. Okay. That puts big tobacco, at 600 billion a year. Way, they're in the back seat, man. Okay. And look what happened there. And, we don't have time to get into what it does to teens. What caffeine is doing to teens and just their development and their circadian rhythm, which is already different than ours, which I learned while I was writing the book.
Okay.
Teenagers naturally fall asleep 1 to 2 hours later than adults. So they're not making this up. They're not tired. But then their natural wake up time is later. I had an experience about 6 months ago, and I was writing the book, and I drink diet soda, and I drink generally Zevia, which is non-GMO. It's a good product. But I like some flavor once in a while. So I went and got some Dr. Pepper and some Diet Dr. Pepper and some Diet Sundrop. And one day I looked at the Dr. Pepper can and said it has caffeine in it. I thought it didn't have caffeine. Okay, here I'm the guy writing this book and I don't even know what I'm drinking, right? You got to look at everything. You have to be vigilant.
Yeah.
So then I looked at the Sundrop can. You may not know what Sundrop is.
I don't know what Sundrop is.
citrus. It's a like squirt.
Okay.
Like old Fresca, that kind of thing.
Like a Fresca. Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
I know Fresca.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, right. Sundrop, of all the major soda brands in a 12-ounce can, has the most caffeine of all of them, including Mountain Dew, Coke, and Pepsi.
That is insane. Okay, so this is
I'm freaking it.
that is crazy. So this is another, like, again, I'm not trying to bring up alcohol, but like one of the things that I learned while we were in Sonoma, we were at a champagnery. Well, not a champagne, sparkling wine, right?
Yep.
From California.
Sure.
And immediately I was like, okay, I have a question. I'm like, how much sugar per glass? And he's like, oh, it's like minimal. And I'm like, well, like how much, because again, the wine industry, just like the beverage industry or the soda industry, is really good at like swaying the hammock, right? And the story. And I think most of these listeners can relate to this. I have steered clear from sparkling wines because of the sugar, because in my head, it had way more sugar than a red wine, because red wines are supposed to be, you buy a dry red wine. He was like, absolutely not. He's like, even our highest sugar content is a quarter, if that, in comparison to a glass of red wine.
Wow.
That was mind-blowing to me.
Yes. Yep.
And he's like, you're taking the fermentation, you're taking the protein and the yeast out of the bottle before it gets corked. He's like, that's where a lot of the sugar like happens. Like that's why wines age. He's like, champagnes or sparkling wines don't age. Like they're going to taste the same the day they got corked as they are in 20 years.
Right.
I thought that was so interesting. And now you just blew my mind in the soda industry, because naturally you just think of like, I mean, it's all of the advertisement. You just think, I think of Mountain Dew right away as absolutely hands down the highest caffeinated soda product, only because of their marketing, because they always put together downhill bikers, and they kind of treated it like Red Bull and back in the day. And it's so interesting because like you don't even think about like something being like a Fresca. I'm like, oh, it's kind of like sparkling water.
Right.
Not really.
So the moral of the story there, for me anyway, was you thought you knew what you were doing and you didn't, so you better read the labels, okay?
Yeah.
And unfortunately, there's caffeine in products that's not labeled, okay? Because it's guarana, taurine. Some of these products actually have caffeine, but they don't have to put the caffeine content in. They just put the product in there. And so you're drinking caffeine on top of caffeine. A lot of the energy drinks have caffeine, and then they have all these other natural health things, stimulants. They're all naturally caffeinated. But because they're called something different other than caffeine, they just put the name down.
Okay.
It's something to beware of, okay? Beware of everything, especially if you're sensitive to caffeine. I mean, there's a range. Like I said, everybody reacts differently. Everybody is different. So when I talk about this, it's in generalities.
Yeah.
But it does apply to most people.
Yeah.
Not to every person. You know, there's something, just a thought that I'll leave you with.
Yeah.
And that is, what would it be like if you woke up in the morning and you felt great?
This is Another Million Miles, where luxury meets authenticity and every step brings you closer to the life that you deserve.
Yeah.
Now, let's face it, these 85% of adults that are drinking caffeine, they don't know what that is. Okay? They can't, because they're in withdrawal. Okay?
Yeah.
And again, this is a natural biological fact that nobody can deny. Okay. Now, granted, some of them don't have maybe the mental fatigue or the brain fog that most of them do. So the question is, if you really are interested to know what it's like, quit for 7 days, quit for 14 days. Now it takes, if you're a chronic user, it takes possibly 30 days to 6 months to actually reset your circadian rhythm. But in 2 days, you're going to know if you have a problem, because you're going to have a splitting headache. And then you have to make the decision, do I want to just continue and see what I'll feel like in 2 weeks?
Okay.
You know, those are personal decisions to make. I quit 2 years ago, and I was drinking a lot of caffeine. And I went cold turkey, which I would not recommend you do. I would do it very slowly. But I went cold turkey, just splitting headache, non-functional.
Yeah.
Called up my daughter, who's natural health practitioner. I said, what can I do? She said, drink some water, a lot of water. She said, you can humor yourself and take some ibuprofen. It's not going to do any good. And she doesn't prescribe. She deals in natural supplements. So telling me to take ibuprofen is way out of her ballpark.
Yeah.
And she said, the only way to get rid of that headache is to drink more caffeine.
Yeah.
So what I did is I just sucked it up. I think it lasted 2 or 3 days. But, you know, what is it like? You know, there's a guy that I have in my anecdotal stories. He quit caffeine he's an influencer. He owns his own jet. His name's Vince. If you YouTube him under caffeine, he'll be one of the first guys up. And he said right out, caffeine almost destroyed his personal life and his business life, because he couldn't make a decision without taking a shot of espresso. He couldn't go to church without taking espresso. And he quit, went through cold turkey, went through massive symptoms, turned his life around. And after 9 months, he wrote this, and he says this in his testimonial. He said, I now sleep better than I can ever remember in my life.
Wow.
And when I wake up, it's like having a double or triple shot espresso, because I'm waking up naturally.
That's pretty powerful.
That is. If you watch that, it's 11 minutes. It's the best one I've ever seen. Video testimonial. I have 20 of them in my book, Anecdotal Stories.
Yeah.
But to watch him, and he's sincere, and he comes across very well. Okay.
Yeah.
And he's got his own podcast. He does his own shows. But if you have an interest in learning more about this, my book is published. Yeah. It's on all the major platforms as well as on our website. Our website is releasethecoffeecuffs.com. That's with the CUFFS. It's a knockoff of handcuffs.
I love it.
And, the book is called Release the Coffee Cuffs, Winning the Battle with Caffeine. It's a guide, it's knowledge, it's information for each one of us and you to make your own decision. Correct. Because we control our lives. No one else does. A lot of people say, well, that person made me do this or that. Nah, that's garbage. We control our lives and we control what goes in. And I would just ask people to consider some of these things we talked about. Yeah. And you realize that I got like 10 or 15% of my spiel. You understand? I hit the big points.
Yeah, for those of you who are listening, I mean, if this is something that interests you, and I think that this goes back to other substances. I mean, I'm relating on a level of alcohol right now just because I just literally came off of a Sonoma County girls trip. But it's the same, really, and that actually goes to validate what Steve's words are and why it's just as important to be educated and to make educated decisions, because these are very similar outcomes of any type of like drug withdrawal and alcohol withdrawal. And alcohol is a drug, but we categorize it differently because it's a liquid. And it's just a very interesting conversation. And I think that those of who are listening are they follow us for a reason and they're appreciative for this information. I think that that's part of the beauty of how the biohacking, the health and wellness industry, the beauty industry, and everything is coming together right now. I think that it's being really just informed. And to your point, you can't change somebody that doesn't want to change.
Exactly.
You can definitely give them the information to do so for themselves.
Yeah. Here's my closing line. It's a Brenda quote from my wife. You can take a horse to water, but you can't make it drink. However, you can make it thirsty. And that's what I'm doing. I want people to be thirsty for information and they can make informed decisions about how their health will be as a result of what they put in their bodies.
That's amazing. That's a great way to end this, Steve. I appreciate you. I know the listeners appreciate you. And again, just a recap, where do they find you? What is your website again?
ReleaseTheCoffeeCuffs.com.
I love that. So if you want more information on what Steve is educating us about as consumers, go to releasethecoffeecuffs.com. And I would assume follow on social.
We're on all the social media platforms. We post regularly 3 to 7 times a week sometime.
Perfect. Yeah.
You'll never guess what we talk about, but yeah.
Hey, I mean, I'm actually like mind blown right now. I can tell you that I will not be waking up tomorrow looking at my coffee maker the same way.
You're looking at, you're a little bit of side-eyed, right? You're going to look at me.
And it might not be like a cold turkey situation, but I will definitely really love and appreciate the information and think that it's 100% valid. So thank you for sharing that. Thank you.
It's a pleasure. And I just want to make a quick comment. I don't know how old you are, but you don't look like you're in your 40s. So
thank you.
You're doing a great job. Fantastic job taking care of yourself.
I just turned 45 this week.
Wow. Well, you look a lot less than that.
Thank you. That's a really lovely thing. Thank you for saying that.
My pleasure.
Well, again, just keep following for all advice on health, wellness, travel, beauty, biohacking, and all the just really authentic conversations that we have here at Another Million Miles. This is why I did this podcast. And meeting people like Steve and just throughout all of the time that we've been doing this, I just learned something new every day. So this is why I do it, and it's to give you value and to give you information and education to live your most optimized life. So we will stay tuned and we will see you next time. Thank you so much for listening.
Thank you for joining me on another Million Miles, where luxury and authenticity meet to enrich your journey. This is another Million Miles, and I'll see you on the path ahead in our next episode. Until then, keep embracing the journey, savoring each moment, keep dreaming big and moving closer to the life you envisioned, and traveling afar.